You didn't land here by accident. Out of all the noise, the scrolling, the endless flood of content, you paused right here, right now. That pause matters. It's a signpost, a threshold, a doorway disguised as an ordinary moment. Most people pass by thresholds without noticing, but you felt something stirring beneath the surface of routine, a restlessness you can't quite name, a pull towards something larger than the familiar life you've been repeating. Think of this like stepping into a corridor you didn't know existed. Behind you, the old cycles still echo. Ahead, possibility hums like electricity in the walls. The threshold isn't dramatic, it's subtle, invisible to most eyes. Yet when you cross it, you sense it in your bones. The air feels different, time bends slightly. Your own awareness expands a little wider. This is not the end of who you were, nor the final arrival of who you'll be. It's the in-between, the beginning of a quantum leap. You may not fully understand yet, but you're already in motion. Most of what surrounds you, you never notice. That's not because it isn't there, it's because your awareness has been trained to filter. Your brain is a gatekeeper, selecting fragments of information out of a flood so vast it's almost impossible to comprehend. Imagine standing at the edge of an ocean, but being allowed to sip only a thimble of water. The ocean keeps rolling, wave after wave, yet your conscious mind only handles the tiniest splash. Researchers suggest that your nervous system processes hundreds of billions of data points every single second, yet only a few thousand rise into awareness. That means the world you believe you're experiencing is less than a fraction of what's really happening. The room you sit in right now, its sounds, its vibrations, its microcurrents of electromagnetic activity, all of it is flooding through you. But what you call reality is stitched together from scraps your mind selects. Now here's where it shifts from interesting trivia to something transformative. Observation changes the observed. Physics has shown that when attention is directed at the subatomic level, the act of focusing alters the outcome. In other words, your awareness is not passive, it's active, creative, shaping, like light passing through a prism. What you choose to notice collapses infinite possibilities into one lived path. Think of your daily choices: where you look, what you dwell on, the emotions you allow as votes. Each vote is cast into the quantum field, and the field responds by sculpting reality to mirror your focus. That's why two people can walk the same street and have completely different experiences. One notices tension, the other notices beauty. Both are right, because both are shaping their own thread of reality. Consider the moments in your life that felt destined, times when a book fell into your hands at the exact instant you needed its words, or when you met someone who felt strangely familiar. These weren't random accidents. They were intersections of attention and possibility. Your awareness, like a magnet, pulled certain experience from the sea of potential into the shoreline of your life. But here's the paradox: because your conscious mind filters out so much, you often mistake absence for emptiness. You might think nothing is happening when in fact, layers of reality are unfolding beyond your sight. Just because you can't see the orchestra doesn't mean the music isn't playing. Your limited focus is like listening to a single instrument, while the entire symphony swells around you. So how do you expand your perception? It begins with curiosity. Instead of assuming you know what's really there, soften your gaze. Pause in the ordinary and ask, what am I not seeing? That single question creates space. Space for intuition to slip in. Space for synchronicity to catch your attention. Space for the unseen majority of reality to show itself. This practice doesn't require special rituals. It requires willingness. willingness to believe that the universe is larger than the thimbleful your mind has been serving you, willingness to test what happens when you focus intentionally instead of drifting unconsciously. Try it. Linger on the feeling of gratitude for 30 seconds. Watch how your body shifts. Notice how your environment responds. You may find a text arrives, a door opens, a chance encounter unfolds. Tiny ripples at first, but proof that your focus is not neutral. The ocean of reality doesn't shrink to fit your awareness. It waits, infinite, ready to deliver whatever you can align with. Each breath is an opportunity to select a different slice of the spectrum, to tune into another layer of what's already here. And the more you practice, the more seamless it becomes. You're beginning to glimpse how much of life exists just outside your habitual focus. And once you see that, the question is no longer whether reality can change. The question is, what reality will you choose to collapse into being? Pause for a moment and notice something you rarely think about: the rhythm in your chest. Your heart doesn't just pump blood, it radiates. Every beat sends out electromagnetic waves that extend beyond your skin, reaching into the space around you. Sensitive instruments have measured this field, extending several feet. But anyone who has ever felt good vibes or tension in the air already knows it intuitively. Your heart is more than a biological engine. It's an antenna transmitting and receiving signals across the quantum field. Each emotional state you embody, calm, fear, gratitude, resentment, creates a distinct pattern of coherence or incoherence. When you're anxious, your signal becomes static, scattered, difficult to interpret. When you're centered in appreciation, your signal sharpens into clarity, like a radio tuned exactly to the right frequency. Think of conversations you've had where words didn't matter as much as presence. Maybe someone walked into the room and instantly shifted the atmosphere. They didn't need to announce their mood, you felt it before they spoke. That's heart-field communication in action, invisible but powerful. It's why you sometimes leave an interaction feeling drained, and other times uplifted without knowing why. Now imagine this heart field as your personal broadcast tower. The thoughts you focus on and the emotions you sustain determine the music playing from that tower. Other people, consciously or unconsciously, tune into that frequency. Opportunities, too, are drawn in resonance with it. The field doesn't discriminate. It mirrors what you emit. If you radiate coherence, life responds with coherence. If you radiate conflict, life reflects that pattern back. And here's the extraordinary part: you can train this antenna. Simple practices, breathing with intention, shifting attention to gratitude, focusing on a sense of inner balance, literally change the electromagnetic signature radiating from your heart. Scientists studying coherence have documented how quickly biology reorganizes when heart rhythms become steady and harmonious. Blood pressure stabilizes, brain waves synchronize, stress hormones decrease, your whole system aligns with clarity. This isn't abstract theory, it's practical navigation. Imagine trying to tune a radio while driving through static. That's what most people live with daily: scattered signals, unaligned thoughts and emotions. But once you adjust the dial, the song comes through crisp and strong. That's coherence, and when your heart achieves it, reality begins to align with the clarity of your broadcast. Consider moments of synchronicity, when events feel perfectly timed, when coincidences stack too neatly to dismiss. These aren't accidents. They're echoes of your signal returning to you, translated into opportunities, connections, and pathways. The heart antenna is both broadcaster and receiver, amplifying what you embody and returning it as lived experience. Think of it like a lighthouse. Ships at sea navigate by its beam, even if the lighthouse keeper never sees them. Your heart emits its light constantly, shaping the way others perceive and approach you. And just as a stronger light reaches farther across the water, a coherent heart field penetrates more deeply into the fabric of experience. This doesn't mean you should suppress emotions or force positivity. Authenticity matters. If you feel grief, acknowledging it brings more coherence than pretending you don't. The key is alignment, bringing thought, feeling, and presence into harmony. Whatever the emotion, coherence doesn't require constant joy. It requires truth resonating clearly through your system. So as you notice your heartbeat right now, consider it your tuning device. With each inhale, you draw in possibility. With each exhale, you broadcast intention. Every rhythm becomes a message to the field. This is who I am. This is what I'm aligned with. This is the frequency I choose to embody. Your heart has always been transmitting. The difference now is that you're becoming aware of it. And awareness is the first step toward mastery. When most people hear the word imagination, they think of fantasy children spinning stories, artists painting visions, dreamers wandering through make-believe landscapes. But what if imagination isn't just a generator of fiction? What if it's a sensory system, an organ of perception just as real as sight, hearing, or touch? Imagine for a moment that your daydreams aren't inventions, but glimpses, snapshots of realities already existing in the quantum field. When you picture a life that feels impossibly beautiful, when you feel a vision that seems too good to be true, you're not escaping reality. You're brushing against another version of it, tuning into a broadcast most people ignore. Think of imagination as a radio receiver. You don't blame the radio for making up the music it catches. It simply picks up frequencies that are already in the air. Likewise, when you imagine, you're receiving from the infinite bandwidth of possibility. Some signals are faint, fuzzy, unrealized. Others come through clear, carrying the unmistakable weight of recognition. That's why certain visions feel less like wishful thinking and more like remembering. History is full of these transmissions. Every breakthrough began in someone's imagination before it appeared in physical form. The light bulb, the airplane, the internet, once dismissed as absurd, now woven into daily life. The imagination of one person became the reality of millions. What distinguished visionaries from dreamers wasn't luck. It was their ability to trust imagination as perception rather than discard it as fantasy. You've felt this difference. There are visions you dismiss because they feel hollow, like mirages, and then there are others that land in your body with a force that shakes you. They leave traces, chills down your spine, tears in your eyes, a pulse of knowing you can't rationalize away. Those aren't fantasies. Those are signals from timelines already vibrating in resonance with your consciousness. The gap between imagination and lived reality isn't distance, it's frequency. Just as two notes must be in harmony to create music, your internal state must match the frequency of what you imagine. That's why some dreams remain distant, they're glimpsed, but not yet harmonized. Yet with each thought, emotion, and choice aligned to the vision, the static clears. The timeline becomes louder, stronger, until eventually it collapses into your lived experience. Here's a practice the next time you catch yourself daydreaming about a reality that feels alive. Don't dismiss it. Sit with it. Notice the details. How does your body feel inside that vision? What emotions are natural there? What choices would you make if you were already living it? These aren't idle questions. They're tuning exercises. Each time you explore, you strengthen the signal, bringing the vision closer to coherence. And here's the paradox: imagination rooted in lack, wishing for what feels absent, rarely materializes. But imagination rooted in recognition, knowing that the reality already exists, creates a bridge. The difference is subtle but profound. One says, "I hope this could happen someday." The other whispers, "I already sense this is true, and I'm aligning with it." Imagination isn't escapism. It's guidance. It's your higher perception revealing what your linear mind can't yet grasp. Every time you honor it, you affirm that you are more than a spectator. You're a navigator, steering through an ocean of potential. So the next time a vision arises that feels like home, treat it as a memory from the future. Because in the quantum field, memory and possibility are two sides of the same coin, and imagination is the organ that allows you to hold it in your hands before the rest of the world can see it. Think about what happens when two waves meet. If they collide out of sync, they cancel each other, leaving turbulence and distortion. But when they line up perfectly, crest meeting crest, trough meeting trough, the wave grows larger, stronger, undeniable. Physicists call this constructive interference. In human terms, it's what happens when your thoughts, emotions, and identity align into coherence. Most people live with interference patterns inside themselves. They think one thing, feel another, and behave in ways that contradict both. It's like trying to tune three instruments to play different songs at the same time. Noise, not harmony. The field around them receives mixed signals, so reality reflects confusion back. Desires stay fuzzy, outcomes feel inconsistent, progress drags. Now imagine the opposite. Your mind entertains a vision of possibility. Your heart resonates with emotions that match it: gratitude, excitement, calm certainty, and your actions embody that alignment, even in small ways. Suddenly, all three systems, the mental, the emotional, the behavioral, broadcast the same frequency. That coherence doesn't just feel better inside you. It amplifies your external signal, making it clear, strong, irresistible. Think of it like a choir. A single voice can sing beautifully, but when many voices harmonize in perfect timing, the sound fills the space, moves the body, stirs the soul. That's constructive interference within your own consciousness. When your inner voices agree, reality can't help but resonate. Science provides a mirror for this process. When two tuning forks vibrate at the same frequency, striking one causes the other to hum, even across a distance. In the same way, when your internal state hums in coherence, external circumstances begin to vibrate in response. People appear who match your resonance. Opportunities arrive that echo your frequency. Synchronicities multiply, not as magic tricks, but as natural outcomes of amplified alignment. This is why fleeting positivity doesn't transform lives. If you hold a hopeful thought but secretly feel doubt, the signals clash. If you declare intentions but act from fear, the interference blurs the message. The quantum field responds not to words alone, but to the whole broadcast, the sum of thought, feeling, and embodiment. Only when these align does the signal strengthen enough to shape reality with precision. Here's the empowering part. Coherence doesn't require perfection. It requires practice. Start small. Hold a thought of gratitude. Let your body feel it. Then act from that space. Notice how the world responds differently than when you act from tension or resentment. Over time, the habit of alignment becomes your natural state, and coherence isn't rigid, it's fluid, like music. Sometimes you'll feel off-key. That's natural. The key is noticing and retuning, not judging yourself. Just as a musician adjusts their instrument mid-song, you can recalibrate your signal with each breath. Consider moments in your past when everything seemed to click. You made decisions effortlessly. Events lined up. Outcomes flowed. That wasn't luck. That was coherence, a temporary but powerful alignment of your inner systems. The leap you're experiencing now is about making coherence not an accident, but a way of being. So picture yourself as a standing wave in the quantum field. Each thought is a crest, each emotion a trough, each action a vibration. When they move together, they amplify, growing so clear that reality bends to their rhythm. Constructive interference isn't just a physics principle, it's the symphony of your becoming. And the more you practice harmony within, the louder your signal grows. Until one day, it's not just your life that transforms, it's the field around you, reorganizing itself to match the music you have chosen to play. Your body is not just along for the ride, it's an active participant in your awakening. Beneath the surface of your skin, inside every cell, processes are unfolding that mirror the expansion of your consciousness. Think of your biology as an instrument that's learning to play higher notes than it ever has before. Scientists once dismissed vast sections of human DNA as junk. Yet evidence suggests these regions hold dormant codes, waiting for the right signals to activate. What if consciousness itself is that signal? Each time you enter coherence when thought, feeling, and presence align, you're not just shifting your mood, you're triggering biochemical cascades that rewrite cellular instructions. Proteins fold differently, genes switch on or off. Your biology adapts to match your awareness. Consider how quickly the body responds to emotion. Fear tightens muscles, floods the bloodstream with cortisol. Joy relaxes the nervous system, releases dopamine, enhances immunity. If emotions can create measurable changes within seconds, imagine what sustained coherence does. Neural pathways begin to rewire, strengthening circuits that process clarity, intuition, and creativity. The architecture of your brain literally reshapes itself in response to the signals you broadcast internally. The heart amplifies this process. Its electromagnetic field influences every cell, synchronizing rhythms throughout the body. When you generate gratitude or compassion, that field becomes coherent and your entire system tunes to the same frequency. Blood pressure steadies, immune response strengthens, stress hormones diminish. Your biology is not static, it's fluid, designed to respond to the state of your consciousness. Think of your mitochondria, the tiny power plants inside your cells. When you shift into states of higher awareness, energy production increases, cells communicate more efficiently, healing accelerates. This is not mystical, it's measurable. Athletes, meditators, and trauma survivors alike have demonstrated how mental and emotional states can influence physical performance, recovery, and resilience. You're tapping into that same principle, not as an occasional event, but as an emerging baseline. Your nervous system, too, is adapting. At first, expanded awareness can feel overwhelming, like trying to run high-voltage current through a fragile wire. Old circuits short out, causing anxiety, restlessness, even fatigue. But over time, the wiring strengthens. New neural networks form, allowing you to process expanded states without overload. What once felt like too much becomes natural, like muscles growing stronger through repeated use. Imagine your DNA as a symphony score with entire movements waiting to be played. For centuries, humanity has repeated the same limited section, convinced the rest was noise. But as your awareness expands, you begin to turn the pages. New movements come alive, capabilities, insights, and sensitivities that seemed impossible before. This is not evolution stretched over generations. This is metamorphosis happening within you, in real time. The key is cooperation. Many people feel these upgrades beginning, then sabotage them by seeking external proof. They check the mirror, waiting for obvious changes, or analyze symptoms with fear. But the transformation isn't always visible at first. Seeds germinate in darkness before breaking through soil. Trust the intelligence of your body. It knows how to adapt when your consciousness gives it permission. Here's a practice the next time you feel your body buzzing, tingling, or shifting in ways you can't explain. Resist the urge to panic. Instead, breathe into it. Imagine your DNA receiving light, unfolding dormant strands, tuning themselves like strings on an instrument. Whether literal or symbolic, this visualization helps your body integrate the frequencies your consciousness is already embracing. You're not fighting biology, you're upgrading it. You're not escaping the human form, you're inhabiting it more fully. With capacities that were always embedded in your genetic design, your body is not a prison, it's a chrysalis. And the butterfly is already pressing against the edges, ready to emerge. Every leap forward comes with resistance. Not because you're failing, but because you're moving between densities, shifting from one layer of reality into another. Think of a spacecraft re-entering Earth's atmosphere. As it breaks through layers of air, friction builds, flames appear around its body, not as punishment, but as evidence of transition. The same happens in consciousness. The heat you feel, the disorientation, the doubts, the tug of old patterns is proof that you're moving. Your rational mind often mislabels this friction as danger. It wants to cling to the familiar, even when the familiar is suffocating. That's why anxiety, restlessness, or sudden fatigue can arise during transformation. They're not signs of regression. They're turbulence as you shift altitude. You're flying higher, where the air is thinner, and your system is still learning to breathe there. Think of a caterpillar dissolving into goo inside its cocoon. To the untrained eye, it might look like destruction, but that breakdown is the necessary prelude to wings. Your ego may panic as old identities dissolve, whispering that you're lost or broken. Yet in truth, you're reorganizing. Cells, thoughts, beliefs, everything is rearranging into a structure that can carry more light, more awareness, more freedom. This stage can feel lonely. Friends and family might not understand why you're different. Some may interpret your changes as withdrawal or detachment. Others may resist because your new vibration makes them uncomfortable. Remember, this isn't about rejection, it's about resonance. As your frequency rises, certain connections fall away not out of cruelty, but because they no longer harmonize. New connections will arrive that match your upgraded state. It's tempting, in moments of friction, to search desperately for external proof. You want confirmation that your leap is real, but digging up the seed every day to check if it's sprouting only delays growth. The process thrives on trust, like an artist painting with invisible ink. You may not see the picture right away, but the design is forming nonetheless. So how do you navigate this friction first? Normalize it. Expect the turbulence as part of the ascent. When waves crash, remind yourself this is lift, not loss. Second, ground your body. Walk barefoot, breathe deeply. Let your nervous system anchor itself in the earth. Transformation is cosmic, but embodiment keeps it sustainable. Third, practice self-compassion. You're learning to live at higher altitudes. Of course, it takes adjustment. Here's the paradox: the very symptoms you resist, confusion, fatigue, heightened sensitivity, are also confirmations. They mean your old operating system is being rewritten. They mean you're no longer content with the static channels you once lived by. You're tuning into finer frequencies, and your body-mind is stretching to keep pace. Think of it like learning a new language. At first, the sounds feel foreign. You stumble, you second-guess. But one day, without realizing it, you start to think in that language. It becomes natural. The same will happen with quantum awareness. The friction is temporary. The fluency is inevitable. So the next time you feel the heat of transition, instead of asking, "What's wrong with me?" ask, What's being born through me? That small shift reframes the fire. It's not destruction, it's ignition. It's proof that your leap isn't theoretical. It's happening in your cells, your choices, your daily life, and soon the turbulence will calm. You'll find yourself soaring at a new altitude, breathing in rhythms that once felt impossible. The friction will be remembered not as failure, but as the sound of your wings learning to spread. You've probably had moments that felt almost too perfectly timed to dismiss a chance encounter with someone who had the exact answer you were searching for. An opportunity appearing the day after you finally admitted what you wanted. A book falling into your hands that spoke directly to your hidden questions. Most people brush these off as coincidence. But when you look closer, you see a pattern synchronicity. Synchronicity is not random luck. It's resonance made visible. When your inner state reaches coherence, reality reflects it back through precise timing and meaningful alignment. You might think of it as the universe whispering, "Yes, you're on track." But it's not the universe choosing you. It's your frequency becoming strong enough to cut through static, attracting matching signals. Here's where things accelerate. At lower states of awareness, there's often a lag between intention and result. You decide on something, but it takes months, even years, to materialize. In higher states, that lag compresses. The gap between cause and effect narrows until they almost merge. Thought becomes event. Intention becomes circumstance. It can feel surreal, as though reality itself is rushing to keep up with you. Imagine walking through fog. At first, you can only see a few feet ahead. Progress is slow. But as the fog lifts, the path appears clearly, and you move quickly, confidently. The acceleration zone is like that clarity dissolves delay. Life responds instantly to your focus, which is why what you focus on becomes more important than ever. This stage carries a profound responsibility. Ancient traditions warn that awakened consciousness magnifies whatever it touches. Fearful focus breeds more fear. Loving focus breeds more connection. You no longer have the luxury of drifting unconsciously through thought. The field is listening closely now, responding in near real time. You may notice this already. Think of a friend and they text you. Contemplate a change, and opportunities to act appear within hours. These aren't parlor tricks. They're demonstrations of coherence echoing through the matrix of possibility. The question is not whether it works. The question is whether you can stay aligned long enough to guide the process intentionally. This doesn't mean controlling every detail. It means cultivating inner clarity so that your broadcast remains steady. If your desires wobble, if you ask for one thing while secretly fearing another, you'll create mixed signals. The field responds with mixed outcomes. But when your thoughts, emotions, and choices reinforce one another, synchronicity cascades, doors open effortlessly, conversations deliver precise insights, time feels less like a straight line and more like a web of intersections, each lighting up just as you arrive. Think of life as a hall of mirrors. At ordinary levels of awareness, the reflections are delayed. You wave your hand, and the mirror responds slowly. But in the acceleration zone, the mirrors become instantaneous. Every gesture, every focus, every belief is reflected back immediately. That's why clarity and responsibility matter so deeply here. The feedback loop is too fast to ignore. So how do you navigate this space? First, become intentional about your attention. Treat it like currency because it is. Every thought you invest gains compound interest in the field. Second, cultivate emotional coherence. It's not enough to think about what you want. You must feel it as real, now. Third, stay present. The acceleration zone doesn't reward daydreaming about distant futures. It responds to the quality of your signal in this moment. The beauty is that synchronicity becomes your compass. Instead of forcing outcomes, you follow the trail of meaningful coincidences. Each one is a breadcrumb, guiding you toward greater alignment. The process feels less like effort and more like dance step. Response, step, response. And as you settle into this rhythm, you realize the universe isn't testing you. It isn't rewarding or punishing. It's mirroring, always mirroring. And in the acceleration zone, the mirror is polished so bright that nothing can hide, not fear, not doubt, not faith, not love. What you choose to broadcast is what the world will echo back. The question is, what signal will you let define your next chapter? Up until now, we've spoken mostly about you, your thresholds, your biology, your coherence, your signal. But your leap doesn't exist in isolation. Every shift you make ripples outward, influencing the collective field of humanity in ways you may never see directly. Like a pebble dropped into a still lake, your vibration creates waves that travel far beyond your immediate circle. There's a term some researchers use, morphic resonance. It suggests that once one individual discovers a new pattern, it becomes easier for others to access. Think about inventions appearing in different parts of the world at nearly the same time, or cultural shifts spreading rapidly across continents. These aren't accidents, they're resonance. When you elevate your consciousness, you contribute to a larger frequency that makes awakening more accessible to everyone. Consider this: every moment you choose coherence instead of chaos, you strengthen a pathway in the collective field. Someone else, perhaps a stranger halfway across the globe, finds it just a little easier to make the same choice. Every time you embody compassion, patience, or courage, you're not just living your values, you're encoding them into the shared atmosphere of human awareness. It works in reverse too. That's why you've been feeling called, restless, pulled into growth. Others have been walking ahead, carving frequencies you could resonate with. Their breakthroughs created scaffolding for yours. And now, your breakthroughs will create scaffolding for those still to come. This is how species evolve, not only through biology, but through consciousness itself. Look at history. Social revolutions didn't start with millions acting simultaneously. They started with a handful of people vibrating at a different frequency, refusing to settle for the old patterns. Eventually, enough individuals resonated with them to tip the balance. And what was once unthinkable became the new normal. From civil rights to scientific revolutions, the story repeats. It always begins with a shift in consciousness, embodied by individuals whose inner frequency could no longer tolerate the old world. You are part of such a shift right now, not in a vague, inspirational sense, but in a practical one. The coherence you practice in your own life is quietly stabilizing the collective field. Think of it like tuning forks. When one vibrates strongly, nearby forks begin to hum in sympathy. Humanity is a room full of tuning forks, and as more individuals reach coherence, the easier it becomes for others to vibrate in harmony. This also explains the friction you see globally. Systems are breaking down, conflicts are intensifying, polarization seems sharper than ever. It's tempting to despair, but from another perspective, this is the collective version of turbulence during transition. Old structures are dissolving because they can no longer contain the expanding awareness of humanity. Just as you outgrow certain identities or relationships, civilizations outgrow outdated paradigms. The unrest is evidence of movement, not collapse. Your role isn't to single-handedly fix the world. Your role is to embody the frequency that contributes to its healing. When you live in coherence, you're not just improving your personal life, you're anchoring stability for others who are overwhelmed by the shift. Your presence becomes a lighthouse, guiding ships through stormy waters. even if those ships never know Noah's name. And this is why your leap matters so profoundly. It's not just about manifestation, abundance, or personal fulfillment. It's about the evolution of a species, learning to remember its own creative power. Every breath you take in awareness, every choice you make from alignment, every moment you refuse to collapse back into unconscious repetition, these are acts of collective service. So when you doubt yourself, when you wonder if your inner work really matters, remember this: someone else's awakening may depend on the pathways you're carving right now. The resonance you create could be the invisible hand that helps them step across their own threshold. You're not just a participant in personal growth. You're a contributor to the great unfolding of human consciousness. And that is a responsibility as sacred as it is extraordinary. The story you've been living isn't about becoming something other than human. It's about remembering what it means to be fully human beyond the limits you were taught to accept. Expansion doesn't make you supernatural, it makes you authentic. It integrates everything you've endured, everything you've learned, everything you've dreamed, into a state of coherence that was always waiting beneath the surface. Think back to your hardest seasons, the delays, the heartbreaks, the nights you thought you wouldn't recover. At the time, those experiences may have felt meaningless, like random cruelty or senseless loss. But from the perspective you're stepping into now, each one was training. Delays cultivated patience, confusion sharpened discernment, suffering deepened compassion. The lessons you thought were punishments were actually calibrations, preparing you to carry greater frequency without breaking under the weight. Authentic expansion doesn't erase your scars, it honors them. Every wound becomes a portal of empathy, every failure a doorway to resilience. What seemed like fragmentation was actually preparation for integration. You're not bypassing your humanity, you're inhabiting it more completely, with awareness as the connective tissue binding all the pieces together. This is why the leap you're making doesn't feel like escape. It feels like return. You're not ascending into some abstract realm detached from life. You're descending fully into the richness of being alive, experiencing yourself as body, mind, and spirit unified. Instead of rejecting your humanity, you're discovering its vast capacity, its ability to channel infinite intelligence, create beauty, and resonate love into form. Think of it like a seed. Contained within it are instructions for roots, stem, leaves, flowers. But to the casual eye, it looks small, inert, insignificant. The seed doesn't become something else when it grows. It becomes fully what it always was. That's what's happening to you. You're germinating into your authentic design, a human consciousness capable of embodying infinite potential while walking in the soil of everyday life. This authenticity is what gives your signal power. Anyone can speak words of hope, but when your lived experience carries the resonance of coherence, people feel it before they understand it. Your presence communicates more than your language ever could. The way you breathe, the way you listen, the way you choose, all of it broadcasts a frequency of alignment that others instinctively recognize. And here's the beautiful paradox: your expansion isn't about separation from others. It's about deeper connection. The more authentically human you become, the more you resonate with the humanity in everyone else. You don't need to convince, persuade, or prove. Your authenticity itself is an invitation. Those who are ready will feel it, and in feeling it, they'll remember their own capacity for expansion. So what does authentic expansion look like in daily life? It looks like patience when fear urges haste. It looks like compassion when anger begs for reaction. It looks like choosing coherence even in chaos, not by suppressing your emotions, but by aligning them with your deeper knowing. It's not about perfection. It's about practice returning again and again to the frequency that feels like home. You are not here to transcend your humanity. You are here to redefine it, to show that being human is not limitation, but possibility. That flesh and spirit are not opposites, but partners in creation, that each moment of presence, no matter how ordinary, carries infinite depth when seen through expanded awareness. This is your quantum leap, not escape, not fantasy, but the radical act of becoming fully, authentically human. And in doing so, you become a living demonstration that consciousness itself is limitless, yet chooses to experience its infinity through the delicate, powerful, beautiful instrument of a human life. Take a breath. Feel the weight of everything you've just absorbed settling into your awareness. This isn't theory anymore, it's the rhythm of your own becoming. The leap has already begun. You've felt it in the subtle restlessness, the synchronicities, the quiet certainty that you can't go back to the smaller version of yourself. Remember, transformation isn't about forcing, it's about allowing. Each time you soften into trust, your biology, your heart, your mind, your field adjust themselves naturally. Like a river carving its course. Expansion doesn't need to be pushed. It flows when you stop damming it with doubt. Yes, there will be turbulence. Yes, there will be days when the old static returns, when you wonder if you imagined the clarity. But now you know what those moments mean. They are not regressions. They are friction, the sound of your system moving between frequencies. Trust them. Move with them. They are proof you're ascending. As you step forward, hold on to one truth: you're not doing this alone. Every choice you make toward coherence strengthens the collective field. Every moment you breathe with awareness contributes to a rising tide that others can ride more easily. Your leap is personal, but its ripples are planetary. So leave this moment not with pressure, but with permission. Permission to trust your signal. Permission to follow the breadcrumbs of synchronicity. Permission to rest when needed and rise when called. You've crossed the threshold. You're already inside the leap. The rest will unfold as naturally as breathing.